This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
It's the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast.
We're old school, right? We wash our own dirty laundry.
The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
I refuse to be judged by a grown man wearing a hockey jersey.
Game on! Game on!
We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast, episode number 110. Paul Rank, Wade Hampton, myself, DocNoyes, and north of the border, Shaun Chaulk joining us. Thanks, Shaun.
Awesome to be here, guys. Looking forward to it.
Your time this evening, and glad to have you on. We are 11 days in the regular season. People have been watching preseason games. I love just being able to stream on different platforms to be able to watch even preseason hockey. See how the guys are doing, things like that. So it's fun. Thank you for the great reception last week with Logan Stevens. Had a lot of good comments, positive feedback on that. So we appreciate Logan coming on and the positivity and some suggestions we got on YouTube comments and others. So again, thank you for that. In Shaun's honor, my drink this evening for my old fashioned has Gretzky 99 ice cask in it. So I had to pull that one out. I'm like, okay, what am I going to drink? I'm like, this one will be perfect. So the Gretzky 99 ice cask going north of the border for my drink. Cheers, everybody. And
Cheers.
Speaking of the drinks, we have the Drink Your Face Off line of barware and clothing. Mitch constantly coming up with new things. I got to send him some more stickers from Dirty Laundry so he can do some things with those. So those hopefully will be in the mail soon, but check him out. This weekend, we want to wish everybody safe travels to the South Jersey Expo. I know that's always a fun event out there, so we hope the Expo goes well. Can't wait to see pictures, hear about it. We'll actually have a rundown report next week. Matt and Dan are joining the show, so they're headed out there. So giving us a little East Coast coverage, so we do appreciate those gentlemen helping us out there. Auction-wise, the only thing, any current auctions, there is one thing, and Shaun, I'll actually let Shaun mention this because it's a special one, but the normal auction stuff, there is nothing going on out there. And we'll talk about Classic here closing in just a minute, but you wanted to mention a special auction that just opened, Shaun.
Yeah, Sotheby's has offered up one of the jerseys Wayne wore in his last NHL game. So obviously everybody knows where they were that day watching the game and whatnot. And most of us also know that he wore a jersey each period and one in the warm-up. And after the game, you know, those went to various people, including Wayne in the Hall of Fame and team management. So one of those jerseys sold I think about a year ago, and a friend of mine was the winning bidder. I think he paid around $700,000 for the jersey at the time. And since then, Sotheby's has been asking him every week, list the jersey with us, list the jersey with us, list the jersey with us. So he finally caved, and they've listed the jersey. It went live today. It opened at 200,000. I think an hour or so after I looked at it, and it was at 280. So where it goes is anybody's guess. They're pretty excited about it. Sotheby's is making a pretty big splash. I got a call yesterday inviting me to go down and sit in on a dinner next Monday night with potential buyers and Gretzky guys and collectors and things. I guess they were, you know, schmoozing, whining and dining, so to speak. And then the auction went live on Tuesday night for the live portion, because Sotheby's, you know, does the online portion and then they go live. So I couldn't go. I have other commitments at short notice, but it would have been a lot of fun to be down there for that. But it's going to be exciting to see where the jersey goes, because, you know, a lot of things have changed in the market lately, like we've talked about. So I'm really anxious to see what this does.
Yeah, we'll definitely track that and report it. Do you know, I'm looking through the notes, when does it actually close?
Next Tuesday night.
Okay, so the live auctions then, and then it'll
go to live.
Okay.
At 6 p.m. on.
Yep, so we'll be able to report on it next Thursday. That's awesome. Yeah, good. If you go to Sotheby's site, you can see it, all the pictures, the documentation, photo matches, the whole 9 yards are all in there. Great, great details.
Great jersey.
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
Doc, good luck with your bidding.
yeah. I was out years ago, way before the auction, the jersey even existed. I couldn't afford it. Um, so Classic closed the other day. Wade and I both did not end up with anything. I had a bid on one thing, and it was like, you know what? If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. It's not something I was a must-have kind of thing. What do you guys think, Shaun? Were you watching or bidding anything?
I'm always watching. I don't bid on too much these days, and what I do bid on these days is actually not a lot of jerseys anymore. I've gone down other avenues with collecting and things, but there's definitely some things that made my eyebrows raise a little bit, like we were saying there, and definitely some things with pricing, and like we talked about earlier as well. There were some lots you just didn't even get a bid. So I'm not quite sure what that says to the current state of the market, or again, is it related to people's fear of the tariffs and things that's going on?
Yeah.
But there was definitely, if you were a buyer, there was definitely some good prices on a few things for sure.
It kept me away, and I'll be the first to admit that my concern on the tariffs changed my bidding, strategy. A couple of the items went for considerably less than I expected them to go, and I actually bid less because I didn't really want to take a chance of catching a tariff bill on the other end of it, right? And I think I agree with you. From what I saw, a lot of the lots were down, and I think that probably leads to the fact that a lot of American bidders or buyers probably had a little bit of anxiety towards all this stuff. It's one thing if you buy something for 100 or 200 bucks. It's another thing if you buy something for 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 10,000. So it is an interesting state in the hobby. The amount of unbid lots was pretty interesting to me when we brought that up before the show. So
And Paul, what was that number again?
Roughly 160 lots without any bids out of less than 1,100 lots.
So what'd you say, 15% rough?
Yeah, roughly 15% of the lots had
that's
zero
a lot
bid.
of consigners, and a lot of people that that sounds like it's a very high number, but to the winners.
We're going to try and do some. And again, we're not knocking Classic things like that.
No.
It's a good reference piece. Paul's going to try and look at the last auction they did and kind of see if we can compare unsold lots or unbid lots there. It's just a hobby, a look at the financial, maybe the financial status of the hobby as a whole.
I mean, I think, for instance, I think that everybody, was it last week that the Oilers released a set of jerseys?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure those got less attention from American buyers as well, right? I mean, it's no knock on anybody. It's just the state of the hobby, and it's a scary thing when you're not exactly sure what you're paying for something, right? I mean, nobody likes that surprise.
It was either last show or the show before, and I can't remember which it was. I had initially made a statement because I had confirmed at that time, checking with collectors and stuff north of the border, that none of the teams were going to ship to the U.S. I know one of them was, after that particular auction, was going to quit shipping, and then I'd heard all the rest of them. But now I went to the Oilers page, and it does. They are going to ship, but it says due to new tariff and duty requirements, everything must be prepaid before we will ship your order.
Yeah.
Once order is placed, we'll reach out to you with the invoice that includes extra duties and fees. If you choose not to pay this additional invoice in 48 hours, your order will be canceled.
So, and here's the interesting part of that. What they're saying is, hey, listen, we're going to charge you whatever it is, but we don't know what it is, right? Until they put it in the calculator machine on the other end of it, they don't know. So, again, that's a little scary, when you're a collector.
I would expect if they put the same numbers in multiple times, they'll get different responses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point.
I have no faith in what's going on. So
no, it's the unknown,
yeah.
right? It's the unknown, because I've heard stories where, and I've brought in, I get packages every day, and I'll get a package today from FedEx, and it'll have no duties and tariffs on it. And tomorrow I'll get one in the mail. And I got a $150 card a couple of weeks ago, and I had $75 in tariffs on a $150 hockey card.
Yeah,
so you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, there's no math, no formula.
Yeah. And that's why, again, no hit on anybody. It's just, you have to pay attention, right? You have to protect yourself a little bit, and that might be something that for this hockey season and for any level of collectability, you're going to have to think about moving forward. I actually just recently today saw, I can't remember who the seller was. I saw a couple for sale posts in our groups, and people were like, I prefer Canadian only bidders or buyers, right?
Yeah.
I think that might be the wave of the current hobby is you're going to get people that say like, hey, this is US only, US Europe only, or not, US, like whatever, because again, it's going to be dicey. So,
and I've had people reach out to me even saying, hey, do you know somebody in Canada that would be willing to like drive stuff across the border? Again, I'm not getting into if there's any legalities or claiming things or whatever. It's just requests that I've received because, again, with the show, getting to know people all over. So people are trying to do that to save even some money because if they get asked, maybe you pay less. I don't know how some of that stuff works. I've never actually crossed the border that way. But there's those things out there as well.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one interesting thing I found in Classic, and I collect college jerseys, mostly Michigan, but some other teams and stuff. And they have this beautiful Wisconsin Badgers 0708 with the Bucky logo on the front with the A. Who was it worn by? Clubbernets. I know I'm mispronouncing his name, but run-of-the-mill player, beautiful looking jersey with some wear and stuff. LOA that sold with premium, buyer's premium, only $222. A similar jersey I remember a month or two on the Facebook group sold for like $350. So my theory, partly on this, was maybe a lot of the U.S. college collectors are in the U.S. Maybe that kept them away. But now we look at another college jersey. There was a Boston College Brian Dumoulin from 2011-12. It's a year that BC won the Frozen Four, beat Ferris State in the finals. The jersey has nice wear, great repairs, but no Frozen Four patch. So I don't think these were worn in the final two games because normally put in. That sold with Hammer for $2,200, which clearly throws out my idea that U.S. college collectors, were the reason why the Wisconsin one was so inexpensive. So, to me, I found that interesting, and it was actually really nice to see a college jersey go for that amount of money. So it was encouraging.
Yeah, and it's again, we'll have to look at as different auctions pop up, especially cross-border stuff, kind of see where things fall and try and see what kind of comparison they are. The Minnesota Wild today put out their anniversary jersey. I mean, it looks like their old one, which I thought was always a cool style, especially with those numbers and that. Originally, I had somebody mention in comments on the podcast somewhere saying that the Wild, and maybe it's for the regular jerseys, I've not seen pictures of those yet, that the 25th patch was going to be below the number. On this is actually on the shoulder. But I think these are very sharp looking jerseys. Again, going back to their early times, I always liked that logo. What do you guys think?
I think it's a beauty. I mean, it definitely is a throwback to some of their earlier stuff. It is that, but I think it's sharp. I think we're seeing a lot of that in the NHL. I think we're seeing a lot of teams go back. Like some of these, like the Rangers anniversary jersey, the Red Wings, the Blues stuff. Some of the stuff, it seems like they're going back to that. So it's neat to see them harkening back instead of going back to the 90s, which they don't really have, but like going back to an early time in their franchise is great. See the heritage in it.
I remember when the Wild started, just how cool that one looked, because that logo was so.
The crest is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it doesn't look much different than a lot of the older ones. I mean, maybe that gold stripe's a little bit different. The Fanatics patch, of course, but we don't need to discuss that. But the socks are super cool.
Yes.
I like the look of those with what the five stripes is that?
Yeah.
One, two,
Yep.
three. Yeah, five stripes. Yeah,
Yeah.
the red, green, and then gold in the middle. That's the socks look great on them. So it's something.
Good looking jersey.
So it's
Nobody's pardon my French, nobody's shit the bed this year with their jerseys. That's like the one.
Oh no,
Like,
I will disagree. And I was watching the Carolina Panthers game last night.
yeah.
Seeing those Carolina jerseys on the ice, I do like the logo, the college one on the shoulder,
Yeah.
but the whole togetherness of them, like how the arms work and stuff, it's just hideous, I thought.
Really?
I really dislike the Carolina jerseys and really I should have seen them on the ice before last week's show. Would have been
Yeah.
the time to talk about this, but
I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him on the ice yet. I mean, I do love the shoulder patch. I mean, like, I guess
that's
I'll just
cool.
see it on the ice. Yeah, but it's a good take.
Yeah,
I have seen it pointed out by a few people though that the red on the jersey and the red on the helmet don't match. They're different shades, and the posting said once you see this, you'll never unsee it. And a bunch of comments underneath were just pissed because they wrecked their.
Is that on the Wild jerseys or the?
No, on the Carolina ones.
Oh, okay, yeah, a
Helmets and
lot
the
more
jerseys
wrecked
are a
those
little bit
jerseys for
off.
me. But
That's
I
great.
I didn't even notice that. I was like, it was difficult to watch. But
And the other, I don't know if it's sad for you, Wade, since you got one in my Gray's draft this past year. It's going to become more collectible. The jersey after this season is going away.
Yeah,
So
it's one of my favorites. I don't know. I mean, I think again, I think with Fanatics, I think that is going to be one of the things we're going to see moving forward with Fanatics because we've seen it so much in the NBA and with MLB. I think that they're very into continuing to, change the jerseys and introduce new stuff. So I I, I know Paul's going to hate hearing this, but I think that's one of the good things that Fanatics is going to bring to the NHL is constant, refiguring of the jerseys. I don't think we're going to see like stale patterns as much as we have with certain teams. I think teams that have classic jerseys will keep their home and away, but I think you'll start to see an influx of third jerseys and things like that to keep it fresh.
uh, yeah, it's something different. And the first year Jersey did that. I love that they ran and did some charitable things and others where they had the selling the hat that just said hat in the same.
Yeah.
And some of those things was a fun little thing. And they're very sharp, but I think you're going to see maybe teams between the NHL Fanatics and teams try and step out of the box as we go forward. And I hope some of them are home runs. Some of them, like Carolina, may be a little iffy. We'll see. The last one, or go ahead, John.
I'm a traditionalist. I've never really liked the introduction of all of these jerseys. Like I'll always be an early '80s Oilers jersey lover, and everything after that is like, meh. There's just too much of it. It's too commercial. I just really love the old home and aways, and just leave it at that.
Well, we didn't even mention the new Oilers.
And I was actually just about to bring that up because that actually
Yeah.
my mind. What do you think,
so-
John?
I'm not a fan. I mean, like I was just saying, I'm not a fan of this whole influx of alternate jersey things anyway. But and Edmonton has had a lot of jerseys in the last 10 years, and this new one is no better than any of them in my opinion. It's meh. Like I'm not rushing out to buy one.
No, but again, I think that's just. I think your traditionalist guys, and I'm the same way. I like a classic jersey as much as the next guy. And I mean, the Oilers home and away classics are fantastic. I mean, it really is one of the jerseys that I can tell. Like one of my first game worn jerseys was a Zdeno Seeger Oilers jersey. Right, that was one of the first ones. I'm still hunting for it. If you know where it is, let me know. I had Paul searching for it. I unfortunately got rid of it as a young man, not knowing better. But like a jersey that I loved, right? A style that I loved. Now, and I get what you're saying, but like again, I think it comes down to in order to keep merchandise moving with the Fanatics branding and the idea of younger people wanting fresh stuff.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more of it. And I actually really like this Oilers jersey. It's so different than anything else they've ever done, right? So
It is.
to me, that makes it fun. It's not the oil drop one, which everybody has their opinion.
But that is in the jersey. It's in the tag in the lower back hem.
Yeah, and again, I think if you're looking for something different, I mean that definitely checks the boxes of something you haven't seen as an Oiler jersey before.
Yeah, luckily they're only going to wear them about 7 games, so
so they'll only have 3 sets of them or 5 sets.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh God.
probably 7 sets.
and 2 backups just in case, as we know a lot of teams do that. One final jersey thing before we get into the life of Shaun. Everybody was very excited that this was happening, and then I think it kind of landed with a little bit of a thud. The Islanders have opened their store and put up jerseys, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. I know they haven't been out there in a lot of number of years, but the cheapest jerseys are $819. Yeah. Why one would you do $819? And two, are some of those even worth close to that?
That's hiring somebody who doesn't understand the hobby, right?
Just something.
And in the same sense, and I don't know if you're going to get to it or not, but I saw a couple collectors who said they put in for jerseys, and then there were message back saying that particular jersey was gone, but they had another similar one. So, I mean, doesn't sound like it went off with a big, home run.
I'm assuming 819 is for a player whose name you don't even recognize.
Pretty much.
Yeah, lower end stuff. I mean,
the Oilers had their locker room sale this past weekend, and you could have got a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins gamer for that, 1,200 Canadian, 1,250.
Yeah. And that was a Warren one.
Yep.
I mean, that's a great player, great price, right?
Exactly.
I don't understand. I mean, we talk about all these teams and all the things that some of them do well and some of them do really poorly. And I don't understand the franchises when they try to jump into this, how they are, one, so ignorant to knowing what collectors are looking for, or having somebody, like if you're going to spend all the money to start a program, wouldn't you think you would do some research and spend some time to figure out really what that stuff is worth and what it sells for, and ask the right people? And
hire somebody who's connected to the hobby or the business side of it to help or consult or run it.
Absolutely. There's a couple major entities in our hobby that don't do that, and it actually has become comical. I mean, like, they're so far removed from having anybody who knows anything about pricing and how people want things and tagging and certificates. It's amazing that they do such a poor job of bringing these programs forward.
And this is out of ileslab.com is where they have their stuff. They're doing both auctions and they're doing buy it now type of stuff. There's a pair of Sorokin pads, one bid at $3,000. They have their practice jerseys, the Adidas style practice jerseys for $150. Anders Lee's currently got a bid on it at $500. Sorokin's glove with 7 bids is at $1,000. Some of that stuff, the goalie stuff, I get a little bit more, especially if it's a more popular player. But getting into the skates, $350. But $819 for Ross Johnson, and these are all last year's, either Adidas, or actually maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. These are all Adidas jerseys. But gloves are $360.
It's one thing I can say about Edmonton is they have a guy running their equipment program that has been there for years, since long before they even started with that. And he's a hobbyist and a collector, and he's got his poop together. Boy, he's really doing a great job in there, in my opinion.
I feel good to see. Yeah, we're fortunate in St. Louis to have the guys we have. They're so, into the hobby, and so they care, right? And
well, not hobbyists themselves. They've learned and they've studied and they've attempted to help other teams, and they've got us and others understand how things work.
And so I mean, I count us as the fortunate ones. You hear so many other horror stories though with other situations. It kind of makes me glad that I am a primary collector of my blues.
All right, so let's get into it.
But before we go on,
yeah.
I wasn't tracking this too closely, the Islanders sale. Does anyone have any sense how many of the jerseys actually sold? And the reason why I bring it up, you can actually search on out of stock stuff, and there's only 2 jerseys listed in there as out of stock. So it's Shopify. They could be removing them. One of them being the Matt Barzal white away jersey, which sold for $22.59 to be exact. So did any of you track it like from the beginning with how many jerseys they had up there and how many are left?
I did.
So I know we're complaining about the pricing and stuff, but if it's selling, if they are moving inventory, then, as much as we hate it, they're actually right, But if the stuff's sitting there, so I'll probably do a better job of tracking it, moving forward. It's now that I'm back home for a couple days. It seems
and
like.
I am
but
not
I just enough.
The description too. I guess I should have mentioned that. I open up on the Barzal actually. This item is guaranteed game used by Islanders game originals and will be met with a certificate of authenticity. That is all that they put. And please note this item is final sale.
So that's kind of like
suck.
That's talking out of both sides of your mouth because you're saying it's game worn, but then you're not giving any information and you're saying the sale's final. I mean, I think we just dealt with something like that pretty similar just recently in the hobby.
I won't touch that. But the photos, as you mentioned, are just terrible. I can't see anywhere on this Barzal. No idea when it might have been worn. I do know the serial number, which is something. But the photos and the way it's laid out, it looks like a little kid's jersey, just with the perspective.
It does.
I know it isn't. I know it really is. What?
I'm glad you said that.
I'm sorry.
It's how that's shot. It does. It looks like it gets way zoomed out. For the auction ones, it is interesting because I'm on the who is this one? Anders Lee. When you go to register and place your bid, you actually have a checkbox you can check for hide identity from bidders. So it is either you'll see names or you won't. But yeah, their presentation definitely leaves something to be desired. I hope they learn. I hope they listen to this. People share it with them or other people get in their ear because it's only going to help them.
Yes,
absolutely.
Nice to see Islander stuff coming to the hobby, but start learning and doing a little bit better. Okay, now the man, the myth of the evening. So Shaun, I guess we'll start with how did you get started in the hobby and collecting?
In the hobby, that story goes back a ways. Actually, I was an autograph collector, so not related to game used stuff at all. And I was in Edmonton randomly in I think the early 90s, and I had time to kill, and I was walking around, and I popped into a pawn shop, and I wasn't looking for anything, but I just stood up talking to the vendor, and I noticed some hockey sticks behind him, leaned up against the wall, and I asked him about the sticks, and he goes, "Oh, they're game used NHL sticks." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well," he says, "they're sticks that NHLers played with." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Show me one." So he reached back and he handed me a Wayne Presley hockey stick. I think he played for the Chicago Blackhawks for a very short time. So I looked at the stick and I looked at him and I said, "So Wayne Presley played in the NHL using this stick. This is a game used stick." And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, how much is it?" He said, $25. And I said, "I'll take it." that was my first game used memorabilia thing that I owned. And then it's like anything, it snowballs and you learn about the hobby and the whole, the whole social network based around it. And you just spread your wings and you dive right in. But that was my first encounter with game used equipment.
Of all places, a pawn shop. I love that.
Right. Yeah. It was pretty funny.
So how did it then? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Do you still have it?
No, but every time I tell the story, that's the question that gets asked. I don't have a clue where it is.
Have you stopped back in that pawn shop recently?
No, maybe I should.
Um, you bought your first stick. How long did it take you to then figure out about the game worn jersey side of things, or did that become your target? What made you then go from a stick to a jersey?
Well, as my knowledge and network, I guess, both increased, I became savvy to dealers and I guess back in those days, forums and things like that. But the first jersey that I bought was in a 2005 Classic auction, and it was an Oilers practice jersey and bib with 99 on the bib. So that was my first jersey. Now I knew there was a jersey market and a jersey industry before that, but I wasn't part of it. And in 2005 is kind of where I turned the corner, because I'm 58 now, so I was not a kid anymore, and I had a little bit more disposable income, and I made the conscious decision that night in that auction that I was going, and that's where things really accelerated in an unreal kind of way. It was after that auction I bought a couple of pieces, and the rest is history, I guess, so they say.
And is it just because that was the first jersey, or you decide, one, I'm in Edmonton and he's right up there with Jesus,
Yeah, with God, yeah.
to lock into that, or was it just that's the one you found? It's like, you know what, that's who I'd want to go after.
No, so I moved to Alberta from Eastern Canada in 1980, and the Oilers came into the league in '79. So they were new to Alberta, and so was I. And growing up down in Newfoundland, Canada's easternmost province, we only got hockey on Saturday nights at 9:30. So I didn't get to watch a lot of hockey as a kid. I was only 13 when I moved out west. So, I was lucky if I got to watch a period on a Saturday night. And I thought my team was the Boston Bruins. If you were in small town Canada, it was it was definitely an original six team, but typically it was Montreal or Toronto. But I picked Boston. My dad was Chicago. My brother was Toronto. So I guess we all wanted a different team. But, we came out west, and out here, hockey was on every night, it seemed. And it was on at 5 o'clock. I was like, holy crap, I can watch hockey like all the time. So I just made the decision. I said to my dad, I said, well, we're in Alberta, we're starting over, and the Oilers are new and they're starting in Alberta. So I'm going to be an Edmonton Oilers fan. So I became an Oilers fan, and I watched. And, if you watched the Oilers in the 80s, you had to be pretty blind if you didn't see what Gretzky and those guys were doing. And I just became a fan. So deciding to collect him was partly because, he was my favorite player and he was the best. But the timing of that auction was when former equipment manager or dressing room attendant Rick Olaschuk's collection sold in 2005. And it was all Oilers stuff and a lot of Gretzky stuff. So that opened my eyes to some of that stuff being available, and hence I bought a couple of pieces. And again, that was the decision.
So how quickly did it snowball? And it's funny to look back. I mean, that was it. It sounds long ago, but also probably doesn't feel that long. It's only 20 years ago.
It is, and sometimes I had to sit and say, wow, 20 years is not a long time. And I look at where I started and where it went. And it's like, holy crap, how did I get there? And I'm not even sure I can answer it. But one thing I always did in the journey, and I call it a journey, is I was always very public about my chase and my collecting and my theme and what I was after. And, my I guess my affection for Gretzky and his collectibles and things. And that was strategic, because I wanted people to know that I existed and that I was looking for his pieces and that I would welcome phone calls about his pieces. And that opened so many doors for me. Anytime the local newspaper or the Edmonton Sun wanted to write a story on memorabilia and they asked me if I wanted to be in it, it was like, yes. I couldn't do enough interviews. because I wanted people to know I was chasing this stuff so that it would come to me. And it came, let me tell you, my phone over the years, it was just amazing. Some of the people who phoned me, former people that were close to Wayne, former coaches, billets, things like that. So it worked out well.
So you get the first piece through Classic. What was the next? Holy crap! I can't believe I own this piece that hit your collection. And was you start focusing on just jerseys, or was it anything game used kind of stuff with Wayne?
Well, anything really, but I mean the most easily accessible and affordable pieces. Like, again, this was just when I was turning the corner and I could afford a little bit more. I couldn't afford a lot more, but it was sticks. So the next piece I got was a stick, and I think I got it just through a newspaper ad or a classified ad that someone was selling it. But anyway, I ended up with this Titan stick, and I thought, wow, I'm holding a stick that Gretzky probably got a goal with, and that just drew me right in. That like it's like, for us guys who love the game, we can never be as close as a player is, but when you haul on a jersey that stinks or pick up the stick that they scored a goal with, that's as close as we're getting. So when you get those pieces, it really hits home.
Well, and it probably took you a little bit back to that pawn shop the first time
100%.
you held that stick in your hand.
100%. It was that same little euphoria bump, you get. Maybe that's what drug addicts feel when they get that bump. I don't know, but I can
Honestly, it would make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So sticks became the thing to chase, and I actually used to run ads in newspapers and magazines looking to buy sticks, and I had a lot. I think I owned well over 400 game used Gretzky sticks.
Wow.
I think the most I've ever captured in a single photo is about 125 lined up on a wall.
Wow.
What's your current stick number?
Oh, I have there's 4 on the wall behind me that are now all my kids' sticks, and I think that's it.
Wow. So I'm assuming you started turning those over at some point, realizing that, okay, there's bigger fish I want to go after.
Yeah. I mean, I've divested of a lot of my collection, unbeknownst to a lot of people, for a couple reasons. One of them was with that theme of Gretzky, I had achieved more than I ever dreamed possible. And finding key pieces became tough. I had over 400 sticks. I know at one time I had 13 photo match pairs of Oilers gloves, including all 4 Stanley Cup Finals victory pairs, and lots of milestone pairs, 200th point pairs, and Rendezvous 87. And, I had this 500th goal skates, 500th goal jersey, 500th goal puck. I had so much stuff. And, as it evolved and public awareness of the collection evolved and Wayne's awareness of the collection evolved, Wayne even toured the collection twice himself. So having gotten to do all of that, it was like, holy crap, there's nothing left to do. There's nothing left to do here. So I changed gears a little bit because I had really gotten what at the time what I thought was most of the good stuff that there was to get. And the other thing that was actually a deciding factor was I had a near miss. We had an incident in our house, and at the time my collection was displayed in the basement of that house, and we had a sewer line let go.
Oh.
And I had the realization of, holy crap, I could have lost all this, and it's not insured because collection insurance is not a thing up here. And then I start thinking, man, if we ever had a fire, how much money of my family's future have I flushed down the toilet? So I started to think that, I've had a heck of a ride with the stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just stuff. So I just started to quietly divest of a lot of the stuff and just get a little smarter, I guess, because I had so much tied up in the collection. I mean, so much. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, if a stick sells for, some of the sticks I sold for $25,000 and $30,000. Cheap ones for $4,000. When there's 400, it adds up.
Sure does.
Right.
So I want to go back a little bit in your story too. When How are you reached out to about Wayne wanting to see your collection, and how did it feel to have him walk into your house?
Well, the first time was in 2010, and I got a call from the Kinsman Club of Edmonton, who were hosting some fundraising dinner, and they were having 1,200 guests at the dinner, and Wayne was their keynote speaker, and they wanted me to bring my collection down to put on display for the 1,200 people to see, but also that Wayne wanted to tour it privately before it opened to the guests. So it was an immediate yes, no-brainer response. And then I worked with a graphic artist, and I actually created storyboards for every single piece in my collection. I had display cases made for every single piece in my collection. And 6 months later, we loaded up 2 trucks and 2 trailers and a team of guys, and we transported the collection to Edmonton and spent the day setting it up. It looked like a museum. It was crazy. I can send you pictures of it. And then before the event, I had my own guests because I had a table, and my guests were in there with me. And Wayne came in and talked to me and shook my hand, got a beer, and we literally just walked the collection from point A to point Z and went right through the whole collection. And it was all set up with, sticks, trophies, equipment, helmets, skates, jerseys, whatever. And I had a photographer shoot the whole interaction. And he captured some amazing moments of, you could see Gretzky thinking about a piece, and, he was actually asking me about a particular piece or how I got it. And at no point was Gretzky amazed that all these pieces were out there, but he was really amazed that one person was able to get them all. So he had questions about how I was able to pull that piece off. But, walking through that, however long it was, I don't know if it was 5 minutes or 50 minutes because it was really a blur. It was incredible. I thought I had just died and gone to heaven in the collecting world because, when you focus so hard on one person or one player, I don't think you ever dream that they're going to want to come and see what you've put together and genuinely have questions and have an interest in it. So it was a pretty incredible moment, I have to say.
Well, in 6 months worth of planning and setting it all up, and like you said, is designing the whole layout. I mean, it's not like, hey, we're doing this event, you might want to show off a few things. It 4 truckloads of stuff, basically. I mean, that is next level.
Oh, Shaun, was that the time that Gretzky had a question about one of your jerseys that he thought his dad might have owned?
It was. It was.
Okay, yes.
And it's kind of funny. We're going through the jerseys, and the one of the jerseys that was on display was the blue 81-82 Sandow. And I had that jersey photo matched 100 times if I had it photo matched once through the season, to lots of milestones, 3 NHL records, 200th point, and things like that. But, we're going through and I'm explaining each jersey to Wayne. The storyboards were there. And I said, oh, Wayne, this is the 81-82 jersey you got. And I listed out the records he got in the jersey and all that stuff. He puts his hand on his chin and he's rubbing it and he's looking at the jersey, and you could see, it's the wheels are turning. And he says, Shaun, he says, I'm pretty sure the jersey's real. That's not a question. He says, but my dad has that jersey from that season. He said, it's in his basement. And not wanting to argue, with Jesus Christ himself, I said, okay, maybe. And I let it go, and we walked through the rest of the collection. Excuse me. And, you could see then the photographer in capturing his pictures, even though we were moving on to 2 or 3 jerseys down the aisle, you could still see Wayne looking back at that jersey and thinking, trying to figure it out. So after the event, or later that night, I explained to Darren Blake, who was his traveling manager at the time. I said, Darren, buddy, I said, that's the jersey. I'm telling you it is. He says, I have photo matches. I have it well documented. And he said, send me what you got. So when it was all over, I sent them all my photo matches and the documentation and the history. And they came back and said, you're right. You have the jersey. My dad doesn't have it after all.
Oh, man.
So
What did you find out what he had?
No, because well, I've seen all the jerseys that Walter had in his basement, and neither one of them was an 81, 82. So I don't know what he was thinking, or he just thought that his dad should have or would have had that jersey, but obviously he didn't.
Shaun, can I jump over the question? I mean, obviously Walter's no longer with us. Do you know what happened to Walter's collection? Does Wayne have that now? Like, what happened to all that stuff that Walter did collect? I'm kind of curious because of your insight.
Still in the basement.
Still there.
Still there. Yeah.
Okay.
Keith, I think it's Keith lives in the house.
Okay.
So it's still there to my knowledge, unless something's happened that I haven't heard from anybody. But yeah, it's still there. And don't forget, they used a lot of it when they did that 2-event thing where they set up that traveling roadshow called Walter's Basement or
the replica
or whatever it was. So they had some of the stuff on display there, but I would imagine it all made its way back.
That's cool. Just curious if you had any insight there. Thank you.
Yeah. And the stuff from the restaurant is all in storage.
Really?
They've never done anything with it. I thought they would have brought it to the winery in Niagara and put it on display there.
In your workings with Wayne for that stuff, did he like give you any kind of insight on whether or not he regretted not collecting or keeping some of that stuff himself, or did he just see it as stuff, as a lot of these guys do?
I think he saw the stuff, but he realized that because I offered him stuff back, a couple of times, and he said, no, it says you keep it, it's yours. And basically his reaction was he had enough stuff because he still has a ton of stuff, and his dad has a ton of stuff, and the Hall of Fame has a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So even though I might have had more than any one of them, or maybe even more than all 3 of them, there was still a lot of stuff.
Gotcha.
Right? Because I owned tons of jerseys, but there are still tons of jerseys that I never owned.
Yeah.
What is one that you wish you could own that's still out there somewhere?
I'm not sure. I never owned one of the last game jerseys, one of the 4, but I did have it on display at one of my shows because a friend of mine owned one of them.
You have a chance again?
Sorry? Yeah, I know I do. I'm past that. If I thought I was if I thought I was a player, I'd be heading to Sotheby's next Monday night for that dinner. I don't know. I owned so many good ones. I mean, the 81-82 was a phenomenal jersey. Sandow will always be my favorite jersey. But I also owned the 87 Stanley Cup jersey, which was also the 500th gold jersey. That was a pretty cool jersey. Very cool jersey. I never owned the rookie. I mean, in hindsight, I couldn't have afforded it when it was on the market. So it's always a timing thing, right?
Sure.
Did you collect any of
go
the
ahead, Bob.
Did you collect any of his non-Edmonton jerseys?
They weren't my priority. But I did have, 96 World Cup, 91 Canada Cup, 81 Canada Cup. I had some All-Star jerseys. I think maybe 3 All-Star jerseys. I've had or brokered many Kings jerseys. I owned a Rangers jersey, brokered other Rangers jerseys. I had a 77 World Juniors jersey, the blue number 9. Nice jersey. So yeah, I mean, I had a lot of different jerseys. Really, Heritage Classic. I'm looking at sitting right on a mannequin right there. So
Very cool. Did you have, and I'll ask for these two, any of his Blues jerseys?
I did. I had one. I
Nice.
had one. There's he only had six. I think it was six. That's all that he ever owned and wore as a Blue. And one of them is in the Hall of Fame. The first one he ever wore as a Blue is in the Hall of Fame. The one that I had, Barry Mizell has right now. So you guys might have even seen it at expos and things. But that was my jersey. Barry actually came to my house and picked that jersey up.
That was at Migrate this year.
Yes, and the other five are all with one collector who's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the one that I owned came from him. He had the six, or he now has four and had the five, something like that. But he had them all, and he bought them directly from the team when Wayne left.
Wow.
I mean, it's a conversation for a different time. I've seen of and heard other things, and I mean, I've always wanted to have that conversation with you privately. So I think the blue stuff is very interesting, just because of the timing of him coming into St. Louis, and the whole thing. I think it's pretty incredible. And then the way he left was kind of so abrupt. It's kind of crazy. That's definitely a jersey that, as a Blues collector, it's got to be like on top of the pyramid of jerseys, right?
Absolutely.
I kind of laughed, and and there was a few people who got a kick out of it when they did the jersey raffle at Migrate this year. The Gretzky was kind of right behind the rack of jerseys. So whenever I went to pick up my jersey, I tried to walk past the rack and grab the Wayne as my choice, and they said no. So it was my attempt.
It was a good effort. I mean,
yeah. People got a little chuckle out of that. That was my attempt at trying to get it. I figured, hey, this is my chance.
Yeah, I've seen, I'd say at least a half a dozen fake Gretzky Blues jerseys. I've looked at.
It's crazy.
I think the most faked jersey I've seen of Gretzky's is 81-82 blue.
Yeah,
the one that I had. It's probably one of the most faked.
But
Besides LA, there's tons of bad LA jerseys.
And that was my next question is, I mean, as obviously probably, as far as modern era, 70s, late, 80s forward, right? I mean, obviously probably the most desirable jersey. That was, I guess, the next question is, how much bad stuff have you seen or have been offered over the years, just based upon the fact that he's obviously the pinnacle piece for most people's collection, right?
Yeah, how much bad stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, so much.
Yeah.
So much. I once looked at a collection for a guy whose dad passed away, and his dad was a collector. And sadly, I know who was selling his dad the jerseys, found out after.
Yeah.
And I think there were 11
bad
jerseys,
oh.
and they were all bad.
Oh.
All bad. And I looked at another collection, I think of 8, similar story, all bad.
What do
And
you look for?
besides that, I've probably looked at 50 or 60 other all bad ones.
Well, what's your first thing you look for? I'm curious.
Well, it depends which team.
Okay.
So it depends which jersey and which era and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things. In Edmonton, you're looking at the Velcro, the patches, the fight straps, the cut, the fly tags and whatnot, because they are indicative of year and things like that.
Yeah.
The other thing with Edmonton is I own thousands and thousands of images from the 80s. There aren't too many jerseys that were worn in Edmonton that, if they were real, I haven't been able to photo match.
Very cool.
So that's a big thing with Oilers ones. I have a big library to draw on. And then you go to LA, and there's other things to look for. Again, the cut, but the Velcro, the tag, or anything that's put in the hem, because you had a lot of different types of customizations in LA, whether it was his kid's initials or the number 99 sewn in and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things, and it does depend on team and era and whatnot. And with St. Louis is the easiest because I know where they all are. So I know if somebody tells me there's a St. Louis jersey, that sure you have a good Gretzky jersey.
My question is, because I mean, if the guy had all 6 of them or whatever, how did he acquire them from the team, and how was he able to acquire all 6? Because the Blues in that era sold them through a team store. So I mean, it's kind of an interesting story, and it's kind of crazy to believe the Blues would just decide to give one guy all 6 of them, and that nobody in the front office wanted one, that nobody in the organization took any. I mean,
well, I'm going to actually have to sidestep that question because I don't want to say anything that could make the person who owns them uncomfortable.
sure.
Because I do know the details, but it's not my place to really say that.
Yeah.
In this case,
that's an interesting part of that story to me, just as a collector and a Blues collector. It's an interesting side note.
It is, and we can talk about it off camera.
So, and the other ones that, of course, they were always super bad fakes is at the end of Gretzky's career is you'd see those Rangers set, the ones that had the set 2 tag.
Yeah.
The volumes of those that would show up everywhere. Oh, look what I found. And every one of them.
No,
I mean,
weren't those were mass produced though for.
Yeah, they were retail.
They were retail mass produced to like be very similar.
They are like at a glance, they're very, you have to really look,
Yeah, very interesting.
What's the most unique piece you've ever had?
Right now up in our loft in the house is Wayne's baby grand piano.
That's pretty unique.
That's fantastic.
All my kids played piano on it, learned to play piano on it.
So it's music used, not game use. Can I ask how you acquired that?
Sure. I mean, I got it from Wayne's former business manager and business partner in Edmonton, a fellow who contacted me years ago for another deal. He sold me Wayne's Mercedes convertible. So I also owned Wayne's Mercedes convertible. He sold. It's a funny story about the convertible. Don't let me get sidetracked. But
you're good.
Let me come back to that, to the convertible story. But anyway, I bought the car from him, and then years later, when we were building this house, and it was at a time where our kids were all in piano lessons, and we actually built a piano loft in the house with the hopes of buying a piano. And we were just getting set up in the house. We still hadn't found a piano. We weren't even actively looking yet. And my phone rings, and it's like, "Hey, Shaun," he says, "we're retiring and we're moving into a new place. And this grand piano of Wayne's that he had, said it's not going to fit in our new place. You wouldn't want to buy a piano, would you?" And I said, actually,
the timing's just right.
The timing was perfect.
That's great.
So that's how we got the piano, and I have all the paperwork that came with it and everything. But back in the 80s, Wayne dated Vicky Moss, who was a recording artist. So I can only assume he bought the piano to have at his place, and Vicky probably composed and sang, using the piano. I can guarantee you Wayne wasn't playing it.
Fantastic. All right, so now I want to hear about.
Hang on. Now the follow-up question is was it a bitch to fit that in the back of the Mercedes?
It's funny because I wondered about the logistics of getting it, because Edmonton is 300 miles from here, and see how quick I converted to miles for you Americans.
Right, we appreciate that.
So anyway, they looked after it, but one day this 5-ton moving truck pulls in the driveway, and 3 Russian powerlifters, and I mean literally, they were world-class powerlifters because they told me they were in conversation. They get out and they manhandled that piano up my twisted staircase to the loft. It was a sight to behold.
The next question is: does the piano come with the house whenever you move? Is it coming out?
It's staying, unless I can find those Russians.
God, that could be the whole selling point. The whole top title for the house sale
Right?
is Gretzky's piano in the
Oh,
house.
great.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
anyway, the car. So Ian Berrigan first contacted me way back, and he says, since Wayne was done with this car, I've had it, and I don't want it anymore. Would you be interested in it? So again, a quick yes. So ended up. So actually, Brad Foote set that up for me. That's who made the connection. You guys probably know Brad Foote from Edmonton, collector guy, good friend. Anyway, he set that deal up, and that's how I got to know Ian. But I bought the car, and Ian had driven it for years, and it was still in good shape, but it was, a finely used 1986 Mercedes 560 hardtop convertible. Beautiful car, heavy as hell. And so I wanted to restore it. So I had it packaged up and sent out to the West Coast, to Vancouver, and a place called Chaotic Customs rebuilt it to showroom condition. They repainted it the stock color. They replaced the leather in the seats, and anything that was worn, they changed. And it came back to me, new carpets, looking brand new. So the first time Wayne looked at the collection, the car was actually on display in the line of memorabilia. And he gets to the car and he's like, "Holy crap!" He goes,
Not what he expected to see, probably.
not what he expected to see. And he wanted to know where I had it restored and all that stuff. He had all kinds of questions. And then he said, "Can I sign it?" So he took a silver pen and he leaned in and he signed the steering column, which was so cool because I wouldn't have even thought of that. And we posed for pictures by it. And then he says, "Will you sell it back to me?" And I'm like, that's a
that had to
hard
be
no,
a question
Wayne.
you didn't expect.
Do you still have the car?
Not at all. I said, that's a hard no. So anyway, for 2 years, they kept calling me to sell them back the car before I said yes.
Oh, yeah, great. That's awesome.
And so when I said yes, literally, I think 24 hours later, FedEx was at the door with the check. And 4 days later, a truck showed up to transport the car to California.
Great.
It was just
That's
the craziest thing. But I still have the LOA he wrote me on the car with the serial number and everything in it. And it's signed Wayne D. Gretzky because he signs every contractual agreement with his middle initial in the name.
Really?
Yeah, so I still have the LOA in a binder over there in my display case.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did it ever cross your mind, once you bought the car and restore it, did you think it would ever end up back with Wayne?
Oh God, no! I thought that was the furthest thing. I mean, geez, who could have wrote that and made it believable?
That's fantastic.
And I mean, how awestruck or just shocked were you at the event where he offered to buy it at that point? And then did you ever think you would tell Wayne Gretzky no?
No, and that's what shocks people. It's like, what do you mean you said no? It's like, no, man, I didn't get to enjoy it yet. I just had it restored. Like, come on. But yeah, that was like one of those moments that'll always stick with me like I said, in the journey. It was when he asked me to sell that back, and I had to say no, and I meant it, or at least I thought I meant it.
I hope somewhere in the all the pictures the photographer was taking, he actually caught the look on Wayne's face when you told him no, because that would be a classic photo,
right? But funny story. They say with the jerseys, if you miss one in an auction, if you're patient, it will always come back to auction. Just be patient. About a year ago, I got a random call from somebody from his office asking me if I wanted to buy the car back.
Well,
I swear to God, they told me it was in Arizona in storage along with another BMW or something, and they offered me both cars. And I said, no, thanks, but I don't want them.
that's great.
That's funny, Wade. You and I didn't get that call.
No. That's all I need is an 86 Mercedes in the garage. That's
Man,
fantastic.
I tell you what, my license plate on that car was WAS99S.
Nice.
Got it. I love that.
Great story.
Not
Listen,
the kind of story I expected to hear tonight, Shaun. Thank you.
those are unique items. You asked, I
For
delivered.
sure.
But I've had so much fun, so much fun. I have so many stories, right? So many.
And isn't that what this is all about? Like, I think being collectors and being hobbyists it's about, and we talk about it all the time on the show. It is about those making memories, making friendships, remembering how you got something that's special to you, or when you got rid of something and either regretted it or it went to the right place. I mean, I think that's one of the funnest parts of this whole thing is hearing these from you is really a fun part of the night. So thank you.
Thank you guys. It's a lot of fun. I love telling the stories. And like I said, there's so many. I'm actually writing a book. Hey, I've already started the book on the journey of collecting and all the stories. So one of these days, it's just such a time consuming thing, but I do have it laid out and a couple of chapters written. But I went to Sundance Film Festival because I was a Gretzky collector. Did you ever hear that story?
No,
Is we definitely love to hear it.
This is a good one.
Yes.
Well, they're all good. They're all good. This one was about 17 years ago, I guess. So I'm sitting in my office on a Thursday morning, and this is important. The day. Thursday morning, first thing in the morning, the phone rings, and the guy goes, "Hi," says Shaun. "This is Kevin Smith, this is Malcolm Ingram." He says, "I'm best friends with Kevin Smith, and I work for him." He said, "Do you know who Kevin Smith is?" And I said, "Well," I said, "I went to high school with a Kevin Smith." And I said, "There's another Kevin Smith who makes movies." And I said, "I'm guessing you're not the guy I went to high school with." And he says, "No." He says, "I'm calling for the Kevin Smith." Now, do you guys know who Kevin Smith is?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Dogma, Bob and Silent Jay, or Silent Bob and Jay, or whatever.
Clerks,
right?
That made him the most
Mallrats.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clerks.
So anyway, I said, "Okay." I said, "How can I help you?" And he goes, "Well," he said, "as you may or may not know, Kevin is a big Gretzky fan and an Oilers fan and whatnot. And we hear that you have a stick that we're trying to track down." And I said, "Okay." He said, "It's the stick that Wayne used in the '88 Stanley Cup final." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I own that stick." And he says, "We want to buy it." And I said, "It's not for sale." And he says, "No," he said, "we really want to buy it." And I said, "You don't understand. It's really not for sale." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Why do you want the stick?" I said, what's the deal?" And he says, "Well," he says, "Kevin is going to the Sundance Film Festival, and he's releasing his 10th movie. And he says, typically when a movie maker goes to the Sundance Film Festival or the Cannes Film Festival, they screen the movie in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people." He said, "The first 2 rows are full of marketing executives. And once the movie screens, they bid for the rights to take the movie to market." And he says it usually costs 30 or 40, $50 million to market the movie and get it to market that these guys are bidding for the rights to do. And he said, when Kevin delivers this movie, he says he's going to go out on stage and tell them that the movie isn't for sale and he's going to market it himself. And I'm trying to follow all this. And he says, so he said, he, being a Gretzky fan, wants to walk out on stage carrying this stick over his shoulder as his Excalibur. And he said, the night that Wayne won the '88 Stanley Cup, he changed the face of hockey because he left Edmonton, went to the United States, kind of brought hockey into the Sun Belt and changed the face of the game and things like that. So, you know, he was kind of going to where the puck's going to be, you know, not where the puck is kind of thing. And he was relating all of this to Gretzky and his fandom of Gretzky. And I said, well, that's kind of cool. I said, I'd love to be able to help you out. I said, I'll lend you the stick. I says, but you have to figure out how to, or I said, you have to sign a contract saying I'll get it back in the same condition I lend it to you in, and you have to give me $15,000 holding fee, which I'll give you back. And they said, okay. I said, okay. I said, I can do something like that. I said, when do you need it? He said, this weekend. Now remember, it's Thursday morning and I'm in northern Canada and they're down in the States. And I said, man, I said, FedEx on its best day is not getting this stick to you in 2 days. I said, that's impossible. I said, but if you can figure out how to make it happen, I'll still lend you the stick. So he goes, okay. He says, leave it with me. I'll call you back. Hang up the phone. I carry on working and didn't think I'd hear another thing. Hour later, the phone rings. He goes, okay, he says, we'll give you the money. We'll sign your contract. We're sending a jet for the stick. I said, you're sending a jet for the stick? He goes, yep. He says, we're going to send it up there. We'll let you know the when and where. I said, no problem. I said, let me know when to be at the Fort McMurray airport and I'll have the stick and you can take it away. And in the conversation I had earlier with him, when we were talking about not being able to get the stick there in 2 days, he says, well, you could bring it down. And that was like water off a duck's back. I had a 3-year-old and a newborn baby. And I just wasn't about to look my wife in the face and say, hey, I'm going to Sundance for the weekend. I didn't even think of that, right? So anyway, after they phoned back and told me that there's a jet coming for the stick, I said, well, I got to go tell Tanya this. So I raced upstairs and Tanya was with the kids, of course. And I said, you'll never guess what just happened. And her reaction is, what now? Because there's always something happening with me.
What's the next big thing?
What now? So I explained it to her and she looked at me and she said, are you nuts? And I said, what do you mean? They're giving me money. They're signing the contract. It's a cool deal. No, she said. They asked you to bring it down and you said no. And I looked at her. It's like, what do you mean? Wasn't that the right answer? You mean I can go to Sundance? She goes, you have to. She says, when are you going to get a chance to do that again?
That's awesome.
I collect my thoughts and I run back downstairs and I phone Malcolm Ingram back and I said, were you serious about me coming? And he goes, absolutely. And I said, okay, I'm coming. So they took all my information and he says, we'll call you back in a couple of hours. They called me back with my business class tickets. They had me flying into Sundance. They said, you'll have a driver waiting for you at the airport. When you get to your resort that we'll have for you, call one of us, and gave me his numbers. And he said, you're going to be Kevin's guest for the weekend. And he says, you're going to have a lot of fun. So I pack up the stick and my best clothes. And I don't know what the hell to expect at a Sundance Film Festival. Anyway, I fly down. And sure enough, I get there and there's a limo driver waiting for me with chalk on the sign like you see in the movies. And I go to my resort and get settled in, and I call these guys.
And let me back up one thing before you get to the next step. Did you have the stick in your hand when you were flying out? Was it checked or was it always with you?
With me.
Okay.
Wow.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, with me. So I phoned them and they said, okay, have your driver bring you to this address. And I'm like, what the fuck did I get? What the heck did I get myself into?
You're all right.
You're fine.
Where am I? Like, am I coming out of this alive? I get my driver to take me and he said, come to this address and bring the stick.
Well, duh.
Yeah. So here I am.
Sounds like a ransom demand.
Holding my hockey stick, and my driver says where to, and I give him the address. And they take me to this other resort. And I don't know if you've ever been to Sundance, but it's all resorts. It's all ski resorts. And they're pretty cool. It's a nice place. Anyway, I get to the lobby and I phone the number, and Malcolm and his assistant, or their assistant Megan, comes down to greet me in the lobby, and they're like, dude, they said, you have no idea what this means to Kevin. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm starting to think I do know. So anyway, they take me through this back of the hotel and out the back, and we're heading, it's in the winter, and we're crossing, and I can see where we were headed. There was a big stairway up to a big glass banquet room of some sort. And I could see there was a party going on inside, and I could see two people outside on the balcony. So we get across the field and walk up the stairs, and I was in front, and I get to the top of the stairs holding this stupid hockey stick. And the guy on the deck back onto me was Kevin in his typical shorts and overcoat, or, you know, type of thing. And when he heard us coming up the stairs, he turns around and he opens his arms and he comes up to me and gives me the biggest hug, and he says, you have no idea what this means to me. And it's like, okay, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm starting to get a good idea of what it means to you here. But anyway, he says, come on. He says, come in. We'll let you meet everybody. So I go into this party, and it's all the actors and the entourage and things from the movie, and that they were screening.
Which movie was this?
Red State.
Okay.
Red State. And what's his name was in it? Roseanne Barr's ex-husband. I forget his name.
Tom Arnold.
Anyway.
Tom Arnold.
Yeah.
No,
anyway,
John Goodman.
John Goodman. John Goodman, the big guy, yeah.
Oh, the
So
guy
anyway,
yeah, the husband in Roseanne.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
St. Louis guy.
St. Louis, yeah, St. Louis.
Right. So anyway, they bring me in, and Kevin takes me around and starts introducing me to people. Jay Muse, his best friend and co-actor in all the movies they're in and things like that, and the rest of the cast. And then all of these people are kind of enthralled by the stick, and they're saying, like, where did you come from? How far did you come? Like, we heard about your collection. And it's like, can we get a picture of you and the stick? Can we get in a picture? And it's like, whoa, like, wait a minute. I'm not the celebrity. You guys are.
So I do have a question. How did you transport the stick? Did you have it what did you have it in when you traveled with it?
I had it wrapped in cardboard. I had it in a box. Like, it looked like just a flat piece of art or something.
All right. I just didn't know how you looked carrying around a hockey stick, through the airport.
In the airport, I know. But anyway, so I go through all these people, all wanting to pose for pictures with me and things like that, and talk to me about my collection and hockey sticks and everything. And then from there that night, we went back to Kevin's house that he has there. And his entourage is there, and Jay Muse. And it's like they couldn't wait to get the Canadian back to the house because they wanted to play Xbox hockey with me. I've never played Xbox hockey. I don't play video games. And it's like they were so disappointed that I wasn't able to play hockey with them. It wasn't even funny. But it was just the funniest, most surreal thing I've ever done. It was so funny. But anyway, I spent the whole weekend with them, went to the screening, sat in the audience. He gave me a shout out on stage in the audience in front of all the people. And then after the movie, he did his thing. I went to after parties. I was on lists. Apparently that's a thing like you see in the movies. You can go to a party if you're on a list. So it was just an amazing experience. Like, Sundance was just clogged full of celebrities, and I'd never been around anything like that. And celebrities don't do much for me, but it was just neat being there. I'd rather be in the dressing room with hockey players than in a room full of celebrities. But it was just a very cool experience to be able to do it. And great weekend. He treated me like gold. Flew me back home on the Monday after spending 3 days there. Thrill of a lifetime. About a year later, he wrote his autobiography, and he told the story of this crazy Canadian who brought the stick across the continent to fulfill his dreams, and gave me a shout out in the book and stuff, and sent me a signed copy. So that was kind of cool. He still texts me to this day. And that was 17 years ago.
Wow.
So, I mean, did you ever? You probably figured or were hoping at some point with collecting this stuff that you would get to show Gretzky some of the things, maybe not to the level that it ended up being. But did you ever think that you'd end up at a Hollywood Film Festival, flown across the continent, like you were?
No, and it's like I said, you couldn't write this stuff and make it believable because it's just so far out of my realm of thought of anything that could happen because of collecting. It's just like I said, what I said earlier, where I had gotten to do so much because of the collection, so much that I never dreamed possible, that I just felt like what was left to do? I'd had so much fun with the collection.
And the obvious question I have to ask, because anybody listening will go, "Why didn't you ask this?" If I forgot, did you ever sell him the stick, or do you still have it?
No, but I did gift him a stick. I gifted him a stick for his own collection after I sent him one. So no,
And even
not
that
that stick.
probably just means a ton to him. And
Absolutely.
Do you still have the stick?
No, I don't. I know where it is. So I sold it. I think it's since sold after, but I know where it went.
So
Very cool.
you kind of implied it there. So it sounds like Kevin's also a collector of some
Yeah,
type of
not
memorabilia.
of game worn stuff. Like he
Yeah.
has a lot of WGA and Upper Deck artwork and limited edition pieces. Like his office and house is full of Oilers autographed memorabilia and things like that, but not game stuff.
Interesting.
But he's a big fan of the game and a big fan of the Oilers and of the Gretzky's, and that's strange for a Jersey kid, to follow the Oilers.
Yeah.
well, so 2 weeks from now, it'll be you call him up. We'll get both of you guys on. You can talk from both sides of the story. He can fill in the other side.
Right.
That is, again, Shaun, not any of the thing I expected to hear this evening, which is that's why one of the reasons we love doing this is hearing things that we definitely would not expect.
Yeah, it's lots of fun. It's so much fun.
Any piece that any non-Gretzky piece that you wish you could own?
Maybe a Howie Morenz game used stick. Howie Morenz was, as you guys I'm sure know, famous Montreal Canadian player, died way too young, I think 1937. Broke his leg playing hockey. He was known as the Stratford Streak. That was his nickname. And two of my companies, Stratford Contracting Limited and Stratford Homes, were named after him because I thought it was such a cool name. So, maybe one of his sticks would be cool. I have back in the 90s, late 90s, after I incorporated my first company, I found out that his son, through a story in the hockey news, that his son, Howie Morenz Jr., was still alive in his 70s in Woodbridge, Ontario. So I found him out, I searched him out, and wrote him a letter and told him about my companies and whatnot. And I asked him if he'd entertain my coming to meet him, to which he called me right away and said, absolutely, I'd love to meet you and talk about it. So I actually flew to Toronto from Western Canada, from Alberta, just to meet him and take him for dinner. So we met. He came into downtown Toronto at the Royal York Hotel, and we had dinner. And we spent 2 hours, and he told me all about growing up in the shadow of his father and what it was like and how his dad truly died, which he told me was not so much from the broken leg and the complications from it as it was from heartbreak and sorrow of not being able to play hockey anymore. So it was really an amazing experience. He brought me all kinds of photos of his dad and of him. He was quite the hockey player too, and he played in a semi-pro level down in the States and whatnot. But he actually quit because he couldn't handle the pressure of living up to his dad's name. So he quit. So it was quite the story. I've got pictures here in albums that he signed for me of him and his playing career that he autographed to me and stuff. So that was a really cool experience. So having a piece of Howie Morenz someday, I think I'll have and put in my office.
That's cool. That's not a type of answer I would necessarily expect, but those are the kind that have much more meaning.
Mm-hmm. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's all just stuff. And when I, you know, made the decision to get rid of a lot of my stuff, I surrounded myself. You can see my walls are full. All the walls in here are, and there's display cases. There's still jerseys. I kept all of the things that meant something, that they weren't just stuff. So jerseys that I got, you know, for or because of my kids, like the Heritage Classic Gretzky jersey that's in front of me. The Heritage Classic in 2002, or the first one, whenever 2002, 2003, whenever it was, my wife and I went to that game, and that was the night we announced to friends and family that we were pregnant with our first child. So we sat at that game and we told the people we were sitting with and our family that night that we were going to have our first child. So I bought that jersey when it became available for Spencer. So that's his jersey kind of thing. So that remains in here. So stuff like that. Each of my kids has a jersey that has a story. Each of my kids has a stick that has a story. And other things, you know, personal connections I've made with players so that I might want to keep the items and things like that. But everything in here now I can point to and tell you a story about it or a reason why I have it. Like behind me, see the onesies, the baby sleepers?
Mm-hmm.
There's one of them there for each of my three kids. And they have Wayne Gretzky 99 on them, and they're all autographed to each of my three kids. As I had the kids, they were done for the kids by Wayne. So things like that, you know, that's the untouchable stuff.
But that's so cool because it's, like you said, it's not just stuff. It's important. It's memories. It's a story beyond, oh yeah, he scored his 200th goal or he played this thing. It was the night we told everybody we were having our first child or these things. And it will always have a meaning, not just to you, but your family going forward. And I love that. And I've talked to other collectors and Wade and Paul, I know you have as well. Even had some reach out to me. I had a particular jersey. Hey, I got engaged to my girlfriend that night. Would you mind selling that? Okay. Cool. Jersey is I have it. I got it for a reason. Yours is more important. Sold it for what I paid. Things like that, because it's going to mean a hell of a lot more to them forever than it will to me 5 years from now.
Right. No, and that's good. It's good that people, collectors like yourself, think like that, because it does. It's nice to reconnect people with things that are attached to something a little more than we are. I've done it myself. I've reconnected players with jerseys and things like that. I'm sure we all have. And it's rewarding to do stuff like that.
So I will as we wrap this thing up, Paul, do you have any final questions for Shaun?
No, you've covered quite a bit, but you know, I'm a little bit. One thing we didn't talk about was I thought you also collected a couple players from Newfoundland too. And I don't know if you still have any of those, because I remember way back when I think you and I were the two Dan Cleary collectors in the entire universe.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I was born in Newfoundland, and Newfoundland hasn't produced a whole ton of NHL players over the years. We've been always pretty isolated province, not a lot of scouting and not a lot of hockey programs out there, but it's changed now. It's much more now. But so the first Newfoundlander to win the Stanley Cup was Danny Cleary. So I have his Stanley Cup Finals jersey in a display case over there, and it's sitting next to a jersey that was worn by the first Newfoundlander to ever play in the NHL, and his name was Alex Faulkner. And he played in the early 60s with Gordie Howe and Ted Lindsay and all of the wonderful Detroit Red Wings from that era. And the cool thing about my connection to Alex Faulkner is that when I was about 9 years old, I guess, I left home to play hockey for the first time. I was playing rep hockey. And I actually went to his hometown and I billeted with the Faulkner family.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So I got to know the Faulkner family in the 70s. We remain friends to this day. I still talk to them all the time. Alec died last year, but I talked to Alec's son, whose name is Shaun, and he's my age. I talk to him all the time to this day, and his daughter. And, I'd like to think we're good friends. So when I found that jersey in a collection in Arizona, of all places, I actually flew to Newfoundland and showed it to Alex. And I have some great pictures of reuniting the jersey with Alex and his kids. So it's kind of cool. And I also, with the Newfoundland connection, I have probably the most extensive collection of Alex Faulkner press photos and things as well. So I've kind of committed to their family that once I'm done with collecting, I'll donate that to a Newfoundland sports museum or back to the family.
Very cool.
That's awesome. I do own one piece of Newfoundland stuff. I did get one of the Growlers jerseys right after.
Oh, they're nice.
There was a goalie who played here in Springfield in juniors, played in there in the last 2 seasons, and I was able to pick one up. And those were nice jerseys. I hate to see the
Very
old, but
yeah.
But no, that's super cool. Anything else, Paul?
No, thank you, Shaun, for appearing on the show. Really happy you were able to do this, and some fascinating stuff as always.
Thanks, guys. So. Really, really appreciate it. It's always fun. I really, really enjoyed it.
Have you got any questions?
No, great for having you on tonight. Enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed both of us being asked about Wayne Gretzky autographs all the time, and I appreciate your insight on those and knowledge. It's always fun to see people ask you if they're real as well. So I think that's great. And thanks for being a great contributor tonight. We appreciate all the fantastic stories.
Thanks, guys. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Anything else from you, Shaun, before we head out this evening?
Nope. It's like I said, I'm not pursuing tons of things anymore, but I'll never leave the hobby. I still stay very connected through my Facebook groups and through collectors. I've always said the community is much bigger than the items we get in it. I've made some amazing friendships over the years, and I keep those. I still travel to Toronto twice a year for the show, and I'll continue to do those things because I just love being a part of the hobby. I love sharing knowledge, and I love helping people.
You could fly to St. Louis in a few weeks. It's beautiful this time of year.
You know what? There'll come a time when I spend more time actually going to shows just for little quick getaways because they're so much fun. I've gone to the Migrate show and things like that.
Wayne lives here about half the time, so
yeah, I know.
Yeah, we'd love to have him come to the show.
Right. Special guest. Work that out. Or Kevin Smith, for that matter.
Shaun and Wayne would be a heck of a connection to have at the expo.
That would be so much fun. That would be a good podcast.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that would elevate us a little bit.
Yeah, you'd have a line out the block too. Well, Shaun, again, thank you so much for giving up your Thursday evening for us. It means a lot. You've been in the hobby a long time, and it's cool to hear. I mean, everybody's seen the pictures of your collections over the years and the amazing things, but it's cool to get the behind the scenes stories, the cool tidbits, and again, the Kevin Smith stuff and all of those. It's so awesome. And we love being able to share things that you can't get being on one of the Facebook pages or on the forums or other things. We glad we can bring this to everybody and appreciate your support and giving up your Thursday evening. But thank you again. And folks, give us a like, subscribe, share this out with your friends. I know this is going to be another popular episode. We do appreciate your support, and we'll see you back next week.